Hello, happy Fitness Friday.
Happy Fitness Friday, everyone. We are broadcasting from beautiful, off to the races. Beautiful Olympics Fitness in Long Beach, California. And we're pumped to be here. Pumped is a pun, guys, because we're talking today about heart health. Welcome to Heart Health Month.
Yes, March is Heart Health Month. Can you believe that it is March already? Wow. I am Dr. Ayla Donlan.
And I'm Emily Sopo.
And we are your MyZone Master Trainers. Both Emily and I are certified group fitness instructors, personal trainers. Of course, we use MyZone for our own personal workouts. You can find us and add us as social connections. We love that.
Yep.
And we use MyZone with all of our clients as well. We really enjoy collaborating to bring you content here live every Friday. We also bring you blogs on the myzone.org website, and we host the MyZone Moves podcast as well. And you can find that on iTunes or Google Play, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. And as you're tuning in, I see Coach B, welcome, and Sue, thank you, guys. Please let us know where you're tuning in from. If you've already worked out today, just give us a little shout out and let us know you're here.
Yeah, and Camila, do you say Camila, I hope, from Sweden? I've noticed you have become a very regular, as well as Sue is and Coach B, so thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Right on. And hi, Sylvia.
Hi, Sylvia.
Very good.
Shall we hop into today's
today's
topic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, Julia. Thank you for joining us as well. Awesome. So many awesome people. All right. So one way to keep our heart incredibly healthy is to perform cardiorespiratory exercise. Now, we've covered this topic a lot in the past, so please do go back to our old videos on these on the YouTube channel for MyZone. You can learn a lot more, but today we're kind of going to summarize some of what we've already talked about and show you a cool new feature of MyZone. So to kick off the month, we want to do a little intro into cardiorespiratory fitness. For many of you, this might be a bit of a review. We'll talk about what happens as our heart and cardiorespiratory fitness improve in terms of function, and then how we can perform cardiorespiratory exercise. So especially if you're a beginner and you're like, I don't really know what to do for cardio, we're gonna give you some tips there. Yes. And we wanna show you the MyZone Zone Match feature, now available on your app.
Yeah, there's a lot of new little additions and features on the app, so this is a great one that we're gonna share with you today. And Matthew, good luck in the CrossFit 18.2 Open tonight.
Woo-hoo!
Go get them, that's great. So definition first of cardiorespiratory fitness, and again, like Emily said, this might be review for many of you, but cardiorespiratory fitness is the fitness of our heart, our lungs, our blood vessels, and it involves dynamic, large muscle movements that are gonna overload our cardiorespiratory, or our cardiovascular, our respiratory, and musculoskeletal systems. And of course, that will involve a little bit of muscular endurance as well, right? Because we have musculoskeletal muscle contractions that are going to be happening depending on the type of activity that we are performing. So that's a little definition of cardiorespiratory fitness. It involves moderate to high intensity activities performed for a duration of 10 minutes or longer at a time. And you've heard Emily and I speak before about the World Health Organization guidelines, and the ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, puts out these same guidelines that healthy adults should accumulate 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise per week or 75 minutes of high intensity exercise per week. And you can accumulate that in as little as 10-minute bouts at a time.
And 300 MyZone effort points per week, right?
Yes, because the MEPS system mirrors the recommendations from the World Health Organization.
Yeah, which is, I think, a really cool way of tracking what you're doing if you're getting enough workouts in.
Absolutely.
Enough cardio in. All right, so let's go through a few adaptations to cardiorespiratory training. I think it's important that we understand how our body is responding and adapting to cardiorespiratory exercise. So when we introduce the stimulus of exercise to our body, a whole host of different physiological changes takes place. And if we continue to stress our body with that stimulus over time, performing cardiorespiratory training, we're going to see many different adaptations for our heart, our lungs, and our blood vessels. So over time, as we do become more fit in those areas, we're going to need a higher work rate. We're going to have to work harder in order to continue to see results. But let's go through a few of the things that change first. So first, we will tend to see an increase in our stroke volume. Stroke volume is the amount of blood that your heart pumps in one beat, right? So we're looking at that amount there. As you train your cardiorespiratory system, you are increasing the capacity of your heart to pump more blood per beat, which is a fantastic thing because ultimately, and we've talked about this before, a healthy heart is a heart that doesn't have to do more work than is required, right? Less stress is ultimately a healthier heart. So if we can have more blood being pumped out per beat, our heart doesn't have to beat as fast, which would ultimately cause, overload over time or more stress than is needed over time. So that is a fantastic physiological adaptation, that stroke volume increase.
Yes, it is. And related to that then is cardiac output. As you become more fit, your cardiac output is going to increase. And of course, cardiac output is a function of stroke volume and heartbeat or heart rate. And so cardiac output is the amount of blood that you are putting out into your system each minute. It's the amount of blood that your heart pumps each minute. And because you are improving your stroke volume with cardiorespiratory exercise, then it's not going to need to beat as often or as fast to get as much blood out as it was before at faster heart rates. And that is why you will notice as you become more fit, it's actually going to feel more challenging to get your heart rate up at sub-maximal work rates. Because your stroke volume has increased, your heart rate doesn't have to beat as much to get the blood out to the working muscles. So you're going to notice that over time, your heart rate at sub-maximal work rates will actually decrease. So that's just something to keep an eye on as your fitness is improving.
It totally is. And I know we've talked to a lot of MyZone users who have been training for years using their MyZone belt. And sometimes we've got folks going, wait, why is it so hard for me to get into the red zone? I'm very physically active.
Right.
Well, that's exactly why, folks. It's actually a good thing.
Yeah. And your resting heart rate is decreasing, which I'm going to talk about in just a moment. Yes. But that's related as well. So I'll come back to that.
Yes. Another adaptation that occurs with regular cardiorespiratory training is blood pressure decreases, something that, so important for our health. So as you train your cardiorespiratory system, your blood vessels actually become more elastic or pliable, and the viscosity or thickness of your blood decreases. And those two changes ultimately lead to less resistance in your blood vessels and decreased blood pressure.
Okay, and now coming back to resting heart rate decreasing as you become more fit. And again, as a function of this improved stroke volume, your heart doesn't have to beat as fast at rest to get blood, oxygen, nutrients out to the rest of your body. So you're going to notice that your resting heart rate comes down as you become more fit. And we've gone through many a time how you can measure changes in your resting heart rate. You can strap your belt on when you first wake up in the mornings. Stay in bed for like 10 minutes or so with your belt on. Make sure you hear the beep, noticing that the belt has activated, and then you can measure your resting heart that way, or you can wear your belt overnight and it will capture your resting heart rate. And then you can monitor changes over time. I'd say every 4 to 8 weeks or so as you're working through a program, or as you're making changes to your program and you want to see if it's affecting your fitness.
Yeah, especially if cardiorespiratory exercise and fitness is important to you specifically, that's a great thing to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, let's talk about the different types of cardiorespiratory training that you can perform. So the first is steady state training. We've talked a lot about this in the past, so you guys could probably define this for us, but here's the definition. Cardiorespiratory exercise performed in steady state is continuous cardio exercise for 10 minutes or up to 2 hours, 3 hours, really as long as you go for, right?
Yeah.
But the idea is that you're performing it for a longer period of time. Examples include jogging, rowing, cycling, hiking, anything that you're doing for a long period of time, just at a very steady rate where your heart rate comes up in the warm-up and then sort of plateaus, right? You're not seeing changes in your MyZone app. When you go back and look at the workout, it should look pretty steady.
Yes.
So as far as the intensity goes, typically we perform steady state exercise at a moderate intensity, such as the blue zone or up into the green zone. Now, there is a higher intensity form of steady state exercise that we'll get to in just a moment, and that's called threshold training. But for the majority of steady state exercise, it's going to be blue and green.
Okay, another type of cardiorespiratory training is tempo or pace training. And you'll notice that this sounds somewhat similar to interval training, but the duration of the work and the recovery phases in tempo or pace training is a little bit longer. So let me define that. When you're performing tempo or pace training, you're going to be at or above your targeted zone or pace for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then you're going to follow that with an active recovery period of about 2 to 3 minutes. It could be equivalent if you wanted 3 to 5 to 3 to 5, or you can have your work phase be a little bit longer than your recovery phase, depending on what your particular goals are. And then you'd repeat that anywhere from 2 to 5 sets or rounds. So you're looking at a total duration of somewhere between 30, 45, up to 60 minutes of tempo or pace training. It should be challenging. So on the work phase, when you're doing your 3 to 5 minutes of work, you should be in the yellow, maybe a little bit in the green into yellow. And then when you're in your recovery phase, then you're coming back down into green, maybe a little bit of blue in those couple minutes that you're recovering.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the next form of training is threshold training. This is what I was talking about earlier. It's continuous steady state exercise, but it is higher in intensity. We're talking yellow zone for most, maybe even red zone for very highly trained individuals. So it's going to be at the highest tolerable intensity, yellow and red. I actually like to do this in my cycling classes. They hate me. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a love.
But it's a love-hate relationship, but it's a great way to train, very intense.
Yes, it certainly is. And speaking of which, so is high-intensity interval training or HIIT training, which we focused on in all of February. So you're very familiar with this by now, but you're performing work phases and recovery phases in as little as 15 seconds at a time, maybe up to 2 minutes at maximum. And you can choose different work to recovery ratios depending on your fitness level. Start out with a shorter work phase than recovery phase, and then as your fitness builds, then incorporate a longer work phase to your recovery phase. Aiming for the hot zones, the yellows and the reds on the work or the push phase, and then aiming for the cooler zones, the green, the blue, during the recovery phase.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so those are the different types of cardiorespiratory training that you can perform, and of course you can do a combination of those. It doesn't have to be specifically one or the other, right? One of the four. Mix it up. Do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
Whatever is gonna make you get it done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, one thing that can help us get it done is the MyZone app.
Exactly.
And okay, I'm so excited about this zone feature. I just want to show you guys because it's so simple to access, and I know it's going to be backwards for you on the video, I'm sorry, but it's so easy to access. And you know when you go to the gym and you just don't want to have to think?
Yeah.
You just want someone to tell you what to do? This is perfect.
And this will do it for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so if you go into the MyZone app, you would click on Workout. And from there, I'm not wearing my belt right now, so you're not going to be able to see anything. And I know this is kind of glary, right?
Yeah, let's see if we can re-angle that. What do you think?
Let's see. Oh, struggle bus. This isn't working so well.
The screen is so light. But you know what? If you just kind of point on the screen,
yeah, that might
do it.
Once we get some color going too. I know you guys can just barely kind of see some outlines here, but regardless, this is where my live tile would go if I was wearing my belt right now. And just below that, there's a little ZM feature or icon that I'd click on. And now I know it's difficult for you to see this because of the glare, but there are a ton of different classes that you can see in here, and so many different intervals to play around with. Super fun. So you can also search these not just by scrolling down, but by putting in the amount of time that you want to be working out for. So for example, if you had 30 minutes of time, right, you can click that and it's going to show you workouts that are 30 minutes long, or even 11 minutes is the shortest one, right? That's so cool. So I really encourage you to play around with this feature because it just takes the guessing out of it. It makes it so easy to follow along. It gives you a little timer with some beeps and countdown. So, you know, turn it on and get going with your cardio.
Yes, and someone had asked the question last week, where the interval timer feature was, and it's on the same screen. On one side it says ZM for zone match, on the other side is the little icon that looks like a little clock. If you click on that, that's where you can do stopwatch, you can do interval timing, you can set your intervals in advance. So there's a lot of really cool features that will help you do your cardiorespiratory exercise.
Yes, absolutely. Real quick, just want to say hi to Kevin.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us from Bannatyne in York. Very cool. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please comment in the comment section below this video on Facebook. And if you're catching us on the replay on YouTube, remember that we are here every Friday at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Yes, we are. And please remember that you can share this out both by directly sharing it with your friends or just by tagging them in the comments, like Emily was saying, as you're making comments or asking questions. March is all about cardiorespiratory fitness, heart health. So we love when you ask us questions or when you let us know what kind of blog topics you want, because then we will cater the information to what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, have a fantastic weekend. We'll see you next week. And keep moving forward. Bye.
Bye. Have a great weekend.